If we only had one book on meditation and one book on green juice and one book on finance, there wouldn't be bookstores. And the way people learn is through a storyteller that resonates with them. So there are hundreds and thousands of books on every topic, but the difference is you.
Welcome to How to Trust Yourself, the podcast for anyone who's done with the endless second guessing and ready to tune in to your inner guidance. I'm Anna Holtzman, and I get that feeling of trudging through life like you're wading through mud, trying to figure out which way to go. In my 20s, I spent more time asking what should I do with my life than writing about crushes or bad dates in my journal. I've tried on a lot of answers: architecture, publishing, editing reality TV for a decade, and finally landing on therapy and coaching, helping people like you connect with your purpose. But here's the thing I've learned through all those twists and turns. Trusting yourself is the key to moving forward, even when the path feels messy. So if you're ready to stop doubting yourself and start listening to your gut, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, dear listener. If you've ever had that quiet or not so quiet whisper inside you saying, I think there's a book in me, then today's conversation is going to feel like someone just turned the lights on in a dark, confusing room. I'm talking with Richelle Fredson, a book proposal coach, publishing insider, former director of publicity and book marketing for Hay House, and the person that so many of the industry's top agents send their authors to first. She calls herself a book proposal coach, author confidant, and the funniest person I know, and honestly, the title fits. Richelle has been on all sides of the publishing world: acquisitions, marketing, author development, publicity, and she's on a mission to demystify the entire industry so that change makers, experts, and creatives can bring their stories into the world without burnout, confusion, or a publishing-induced identity crisis. What I love most about Richelle is that even though she's brilliant at strategy, platform proposals, positioning, all that, she's just as attuned to the deeper emotional process of writing a book. The fear, the visibility, the identity shift, the question of who am I to do this, and the transformation that happens when someone finally claims their voice on the page. If you've ever dreamed of writing a book but felt overwhelmed, intimidated, or spooked by the publishing world, this episode is your map. Let's dive in. Richelle, I am an admirer of your work, your podcast, all your stuff. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time out of writing your book to join us here.
I'm open to all distractions, but I'm especially happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
For folks who are meeting you for the very first time through this conversation, could you please share a bit with this audience about what it is that you do and who you help and who your forthcoming book is for?
Yeah. I feel like this is always a tough question for creatives to answer because we're often sort of multi-hyphenate beings. But here we go. I am first and foremost a book proposal coach. So I have been in the publishing industry for 23 years now and spent a huge chunk of my career in traditional publishing, and started my own business in 2018. And I really help people with book ideation. How do we create the right book idea for you and where you want to go? And how do we have that meet the expectations of the market and the publishers and all of our future readers? But I also spend a great deal of time doing other creative development consulting. So helping people identify podcasts they want to start and looking at courses or programs that they want to begin in their business. So anything that's creative ideation is my jam, and I love doing it.
I love this so much. I mean, yes, I can't wait to dive into the rest of this conversation. And starting off with, how did you get here? Because, I feel like this is more and more common nowadays that we don't stay just like, one clock in and clock out job for our entire lives, but it's this whole tapestry of experiences that we get to synthesize into,
Yeah.
the kind of thing that you're doing now.
Yeah, I think when I love that. I love that we have agency to choose different paths at different times and what lights us up, and leaving behind what doesn't, which is basically my career in a nutshell, and probably goes all the way back to childhood. I've been sort of a little feminist as long as I can remember. I used to. My mom said I would collect people and stories as a kid, and I always loved just understanding people and the choices they made and what they wanted to do in the world. And I love to champion people. And that's just been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember. And I think that as I got older, I landed myself in a bunch of different sort of odd jobs. And I did follow the career path I studied in college. I studied PR and communications and probably was one of the few kids that actually went and got a job in that field after graduation. And just hadn't found my home yet. And I was doing all the things you do to climb a corporate ladder, right? All the things we're told, especially as women, one foot in front of the next, pull yourself up, go, fight the good fight. And it wasn't until about 2003, I got a very random email inquiry from a book publisher. And I
Oh,
had never considered working in publishing. I was the kid who didn't particularly love to read as a kid. I was the Cliff Notes kid. Like, just give me the summary and give me the need to knows. And I ended up falling in love with this publisher, Hay House, which still exists,
oh
and
yeah.
not a lot of publishers in Southern California. So it was not a career path I'd ever considered. But I really loved the idea of being a change maker and helping people get their stories and their wisdom out in the world to impact people in a positive way. And that was really the beginning of the publishing journey. That's, where it all started. I held a lot of different positions over the years, from PR and marketing to, in my final 8 years, adding acquisitions to that list and helping to buy the books that we would publish. And so I got to wear so many hats and just really fall in love with an industry that does create change and does bring stories and diversity and all these things to into the light. And so I've been passionate about publishing and helping people get there ever since.
Yeah. And I love just learning about all the different pieces of that, the parts of it that were like choices and interests that you followed, the parts that were kind of just like you said, like a random
Yeah.
email across your desk and it led to this whole branching off
Yeah. The
of your
same happened actually when because I grew up in Southern California. And like I said, there were not publishers really in Southern California. There were in San Francisco, but
yeah.
there were a handful. And after working there for about 8 years, I had the opportunity to move to New York and help open an office here where other publishers were and where the agents were shopping their authors. And um, I didn't know a single soul in New York City. No one in my family had ever moved away. Like, we were all within 30 minutes to an hour of each other. And I just thought, why not? Like, why not go have this experience? Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe the city scares the crap out of me. I don't know, but let's just go. And that was, like 17 years ago. So I
Yeah.
stayed.
And you're practically my neighbor now. We both live in New York City.
I
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I think part of it is just letting myself experience risk. I will just call out that I am very privileged to have amazing parents who've always let themselves be known as a safety net if I ever, needed to be picked up off the floor, which I have been before. But I just try and allow myself experiences where I can really have some expansion and learn something
Yeah.
new and challenge myself.
And speaking of risk, I want to ask about the part of your story of getting to doing the work you're doing now
Yeah.
that's about leaving the corporate world or like a structure, a job, and
Yeah.
going off on your own, which, a lot of people dream of. And I imagine probably a lot of the folks that you mentor are either dreaming of or have done. And I think that process seems very mysterious and impossible to folks who are considering it but
Yeah.
haven't dived in yet?
Yeah, I love this question. First of all, it's very tied into the book as we lightly touched on because it doesn't come out till 2027, called Do the Thing.
Yeah.
And that's like very much my mentality, right? If you have something on your heart, go do the thing. But I started my business when I was 3 months postpartum. I was
Oh,
still on maternity leave, and in those early days, it was the middle of winter in New York City. It was like a blizzard winter. It was a really bad one. I felt very just cooped up, just needed to get outside. I would leave my son with my husband and I would go walk to the coffee shop. And I just felt like I needed to sit there and have my brain work again, right? It had been turned off for a little
yeah.
bit. I wasn't ready to like go start the corporate career again. I had to report back at a certain time, but I wanted to learn something. I was ready. I was craving some creativity and I was craving learning. So I would sit at the coffee shop and I would just listen to business podcasts. And
Oh,
I would just start to take notes of going, okay, Richelle, like what is the someday when plan? What's the someday when plan? If I were to ever take this leap and take all the parts of my job that I love the most and leave behind the ones that I don't love as much, what could that look like? And
yeah.
I crafted a business plan essentially, and I went back to work and I put it aside in that someday when file. And after a couple of weeks, as any mother knows, after going back, I was working a lot of hours and I was started to fear missing out on some important moments, and weighing my time differently. I decided that the someday when plan was now.
Mm,
And I spoke with my husband and I said, this is this thing I really want to do. I can cash in all the vacation time I haven't used in a decade. And here's
yeah.
financially how this could work. And he's like, great, go, let's do this. And so it was one of the scariest things I've ever done, but
Yeah.
I just felt it so deep in my gut that it was the right thing to do and that the relationships that I'd built over the years would support me. And I just took that great leap. And I'm not sure, like you said, after counseling client after client who were often in similar positions of
Yeah.
leaving the corporate world and wanting to create something of their own, if it ever maps out perfectly, right? Like we can make all the plans, but you're never going to have it all figured out.
I'm so glad you're saying this part because I could just hear listeners saying, and then, I took a deep breath and I did it and it was all tied up in a neat
The
little
end,
bow.
yeah.
Like, no, I don't, I mean, maybe somebody has that experience, but it's
Yeah.
almost never the case.
But I think that what people learn in those early days really sticks with you, right? Because the evolution of my business from 2018 until now is wild. Things that I thought weren't even on the table are things that I'm doing now. And I think that also had to do this purging again. Like I purge every year. What still brings me joy and what feels like a headache? Is
Yeah.
there a better way to do what I'm doing? Is there a better way to serve people? And checking in with myself and seeing how I feel every year in my business has been one of the most valuable things that I can do as someone who wants to create and impact the world positively and raise my son, go watch football on Sundays, enjoy my life.
Yeah.
So,
I'm so glad that you're also sharing that and modeling that for listeners who, I think many of us for much of our life don't even consider that what you've just described as a possibility.
yeah,
It's just about like how do I get through my working years and, you
yeah.
know, maybe someday I'll have some time to do what I really want to do.
Isn't that the curse? The maybe someday. I mean,
Yeah.
there's this great writer and podcaster and gem named Mara Glatzel. And she wrote a book called Needy a couple of
Mhm.
years ago. And she had this conversation with me during a particular time where everything felt overwhelming. My business was overwhelming.
Yeah.
My home life was overwhelming. Financially, things were overwhelming. And she just looked at me across the Zoom screen and she said, it's a season. Everything's a season, right? And so that has stuck with me so
Yeah.
many years later that we're not hustling every season. We're not resting every season. There are seasons for work. There are seasons, we are balancing it all the time. But the part B to that, as we talked further, was the only way you can understand and grow is by checking in with your own needs. So there we have that's why I check in with myself every year in my business. Are my needs on a human level, on a creative level, on a family level being met? And the first place that shift is going to occur is in my business.
I love that so much, and I wrote that down. It's a season. I'm gonna take that with me
Yeah.
now, so thanks for passing that along to
Yeah.
me and to listeners. I think lots of folks will be putting that in their back pocket. And it is it's such a silly cliche, but as you're describing this, the, like, saying that comes to me is, um, "You've gotta wear the clothes, don't let the clothes wear you," and the
Yeah.
same is true for our professional life,
Yeah.
for our life, period.
Yeah. I think we get, and I speak to primarily women most of the time, mostly in my groups Um, and my clients tend to be women who are shaking up a narrative of some sort. And so many people are so used to leaving themselves out of the equation that it's a very empowering thing to put yourself first, but
Yeah.
not something that we're taught to do. And that's a lesson I have to learn over and over again, which is why the seasons bring some compassion into that conversation. Because the truth is, in September, this month that we're talking in right now is
Yeah.
not a season I get to prioritize myself very frequently. It's back to school. It's typically my busiest work time. I'm finishing my book. We just got a puppy, right? So, like, did Richelle shower today? Is sometime not the answer you want to hear. I did today. You're welcome. But I know that the break is coming. It's
Yeah.
cyclical for me. And so it means that in the times that I know are busy, I can put my head down. And writers experience this too, right? Typically, a book is nobody's number one priority,
Yes.
right? It's the thing that we want and we crave so deeply, but it's probably not the thing that sits in your number one spot all the time. And you've got to give yourself grace for that.
So, so true, and that really leads perfectly into this question I wanna ask, which, I think I know that there are many folks who listen to this podcast who wanna write a book,
Yeah.
but haven't yet given themselves permission to. Um, I think there are also folks who wanna write a second book and haven't given themselves permission to. And the question that I know is on many of their minds, and I think we all can relate to this in some way, is like, why me? And so I'll put that question to you, like, why is it important? There's so many books out there in the world already. Why is it important to you? Why is this your life's work to bring yet even more books out into the world?
Mm. Well, I'll tell this story through my son's eyes because, as you can see behind me, there are some stacks of books, and those are books that I've helped to bring to life over the last couple of years. And he
Yeah.
walks up to that stack and he says, "Mommy, your name's not on the front of any of these." Like what? And I go, "But look,
Oof.
let's flip." Like, right, zinger, thanks, kid.
Yep.
I go, "But let's flip to the back and see that my name and some very nice things are in all of these acknowledgments." And my fingerprint is in every one of these books. And he goes, "Well, if your fingerprint is in this book and lots of people went and bought this book, your fingerprint's everywhere." And it's such a cool thing to be part of a process that changes lives. Truly, I do not take it for granted. I work with a lot of books and writers who are from marginalized communities who are sharing their stories and experiences, and we can only grow as human beings and expand our compassion and our understanding when we read other people's stories and experiences.
Yeah.
And so I get to be a little fingerprint in that process. Um, and it's a really beautiful and important thing to me.
I love that so much. I also truly believe that it's not just our understanding and compassion for others, but it's also our understanding of ourself that
Yeah.
grows exponentially, right? When we get to see through not just one other lens, but it like as many lenses as we can access. I think of
Yeah.
it as like there's this kaleidoscope through which we understand our own human experience, and each
Mm,
person that shares their story adds another, like, mirror pane to that kaleidoscope, and we get to see even more expansive
I
clarity.
love that visual. And look at us just in this conversation, right? I've said something that really stuck with you about CE, but it's an exchange of ideas and experiences. And it's so funny because so many people will ask me, is there space for me?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, yes, there is. If we only had one book on meditation and one book on green juice and one book on finance, there wouldn't be bookstores. And the way people learn is through a storyteller that resonates with them. So there are hundreds and thousands of books on every topic, but the difference is you.
I'm also thinking it's like a book is a lot like a friend in a way.
Mm,
And like imagine thinking like, yeah, there are already enough friends in the world. I don't really have a place here.
I don't have time for new friends.
Yeah.
No, of course, of course. And it's interesting you use the word friend because often when I'm talking to my clients about books, I go, we spend a lot of time thinking about community building as writers in this day and age, right? Where are we building community? Where are we bringing readers to the table? Where are we exchanging ideas, whether it be social media or our newsletters or podcasts like this? A book to me is a community builder because someone gets to sit with words that you've worked really hard to put together and they get to see themselves in your experience. And that creates community in a way that people don't often think about books.
It does. And you see so many like literal communities of people that come together
Yeah.
around a book. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yep.
So there obviously is a need for books, for stories, for us to share our voices in words. And yet so many of us are afraid on so many levels. And I think one of the things that so many writers or aspiring writers feel intimidated and overwhelmed by is the publishing industry
Yeah.
and just the prospect of writing a book, like all of it. What are some of the more common fears that show up in clients that you're working with, and how do you help
Mm.
them through those fears? A quick pause here because I want to invite you into something that I think could shift the way you feel about showing up. If you're a sensitive creative or entrepreneur, and the idea of being really seen and heard brings up fear, resistance, or that, oh no, not me feeling, you are in good company. My free visibility workshop, Let Yourself Be Seen, is all about making visibility feel safe to your nervous system and true to you. We'll explore how to work with fear as a doorway into more authentic self expression so you can share the work that matters most to you without pushing, pretending, or burning out. You can save your spot or catch the replay at annaholtzman.com/be seen. Okay, let's get back to the conversation.
You just nailed the first one. So I whittled it down to three: overwhelm,
Yeah.
vulnerability, and comparison. Overwhelm is, how do I even do this? What's the first step? Who do I need? What do I need? What path of publishing makes sense? It's all the logistics that often keep us stagnant and keep us from fulfilling this dream and important thing that we want to do. The overwhelm is can sort of fall away when you get in conversation with people that can bring something to light for you, which is why you
Yeah.
do this. I do my podcast. I have groups or free sessions. Like, find a person that you resonate with and consume what you can so that you can make the right decision for yourself, right? Publishing is a very personal and intimate experience. Yes, it's a big industry. And yes, the industry wants certain things from you, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of magic and mystery and humans, they're making these decisions. So once you kind of take oh, I am vying for someone to want me,
Yeah.
and say, I am in charge of my own path and I'm going to do this in a way that feels good to me, that overwhelm starts to fall away. Okay.
Yeah.
The next is that comes right on the heels of overwhelm is vulnerability. Vulnerability is like, oh crap, now I actually have to show up. Now I have to do this thing that I said I would. And it feels a little strange to put myself out there. It feels scary to put my ideas out there. I'm going to be judged for what I put out there. So much fear in being seen, truly, even from some of the most powerful people I've worked with. There's
I've heard
always
that.
that fear.
Yeah.
What are people going to think? And it's so natural, and you can't change it, and you're not for everybody. And if you focus on the people you are for and the impact you want to make, some of that vulnerability becomes a connection point instead of you saying, I'm not good enough or I'm too scared to do this. It's, I want to do this because I know somebody needs it.
I so identify with and talk about this a ton, like that your vulnerability is a connection point. And
Yes.
it's ironic because it's the thing we so just, reflexively want to protect and hide from other people. We
Yeah.
want to look like we've got it all together. But, like, when was the last time you went to a dinner party where you didn't know anyone and you felt just really connected to the person who had it all together on
Yeah.
the outside? Like, no, it's the person that was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a total mess," and you're like, "Let me talk to
I'm
you."
usually the hot mess. So come sit next to me at a dinner party. But yeah, it's a connection point because and I say this all the time when we get into sort of looking at comps and we look at what books are on the market that our readers may have already read.
Yeah,
And if you sometimes get into the reviews of those books, you might see things like it felt like someone was on a pedestal talking down to me, or they acted like they had it all figured out. It didn't resonate with me because it didn't feel authentic. Our vulnerability is magic and it really unites us. So, moving from the overwhelm to the acceptance of vulnerability as a powerful tool is a very cool thing. The third thing that comes up on the heels of that is the comparison.
yes,
Is someone doing it better than me? Is it worth doing because someone is already doing it at the top of their game?
yeah,
Can I write a real estate book if Ryan Serhant has already written a couple, right? It's like, it's that, is there space for me? But like we said, it's the resonation point is you. And I talk about it as lived and learned experience. You know, people will resonate with your lived experience regardless of what credentials you hold or what training you have or whether you're a therapist or not. Like most of what people remember from books is like the deeply personal things that resonated with them.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know that's true for me. It's always, like, the little details of, like, yeah, just like,
Where you
"Oh,
laugh and go, "Oh, me too." Yeah.
yeah, me too." We're like, "I grew up in that town too." That's, like, a crazy coincidence, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This is all such great stuff, and there's as you were speaking, I was like, there's another fear that I've heard from clients, and I'm sure this is gonna be familiar to you too. Um, I recently was working with a one-on-one coaching client who was in the process of putting her first book of poetry out into the world, and something that emerged in, like, entering into the relationship with the publisher was this fear of losing control
Mm.
of such a, personal expression, which any book really is on some level, even if it's not poetry, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about weaving together like that personal creativity and, what the market wants.
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate that without losing yourself, I guess is the question.
Oh, that's a great question. I think that what the market wants is always just data that you can use how you want to use it. I'm a firm believer that there really is space for everyone. And so I use the data as just like a hey, do I fill a gap that maybe people were left wanting? Do I talk about this in a different way? But the truth is, from sitting on the other side of the conference room table, being a publishing exec for many years, we're scared of things that are new. Publishers are very risk averse. So they want to see that there's lots of books out that are thriving in the topic that you want to write about. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. So everyone needs to stop worrying about being the first to say something because that's actually much scarier to them than taking something that's tried and true and making it fresh in your own. And so that's the way I choose to see that is how can we adapt an idea through our own lens, like you said, the kaleidoscope. How can we take something that's known and make it ours?
Yeah. This is a great I hope that listeners will replay what you just said and remember that as they're going to the page.
Take something tried and true and make it
Mhm,
fresh, 100%.
mhm.
Yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't want that. That's scary. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about the publishing industry and like this is your area of deep experience and expertise and it's what draws people to you to work with you is you're helping them get published.
Yeah.
And I know that as this conversation is about so much more than the publishing industry and getting published, what winds up happening between you and a client goes so much broader and deeper than that. And I've heard you talk about, and on your own podcast, how the transformations that you see in clients go so much broader than just publishing their books. And I'd love
Yeah.
to hear you talk a bit about that.
Oh gosh, this is one of like my favorite byproducts to doing the work that I do is it's like, yes, I am thrilled when the book deal happens. I'm thrilled when the book comes out. But for me, I get to witness someone who went through such a personal evolution that it's so rewarding. So where people came to me with that vulnerability and the comparison and the overwhelm, to exit this process feeling confident and validated and assured about what they know and who they innately are. They didn't have to sell a version of themselves to try and be chosen. They just got to bring more of themselves into the work they do. Watching that confidence grow is hands down the best thing that I get to do. I have seen people leave corporate careers and have the confidence to build their own business, to expand and not just write the book but create the course, create the podcast, create an ecosystem for that book to exist. I've seen people who were afraid to show up online or write on Substack or start their Instagram page thrive and enjoy doing it and connecting with people. I've seen people change their family legacies. Truly, not
Wow.
just financially, but in rewriting what the American dream was to them. And so there's a lot of components to me that are cultural, that are systemic, that are personal, where I get to just see this evolution take place, and it's an absolute honor to witness it. There's a reason why all my clients become friends because it's an intimate process to take our hearts and souls and put them on the page and then usher them into the world for critique. That is a deeply personal process. And that's really the way that I handle it. We're not creating a book, we're changing legacy together.
That's so, so beautiful. There's a memory in my own like catalog of felt memories that came up listening to you describe that, which was a little over a year ago. I participated in a coaching program for speaking on stage. I'd never spoken on stage before, and I something in me wanted to and was terrified, and it was
That's
like,
me too. Yeah.
yeah. And so I did this program, and as part of it, I spoke on stage for the first time in front of people. And ostensibly, like, you're doing this program because you want to do paid speaking gigs, and like doing this is going to lead to that, yada, yada, yada. Um, I've yet to do a paid speaking gig on a stage. But what happened for me, like what I experienced as I was walking off that stage, I describe it as like I felt like the molecules in my body had reconfigured themselves and I felt 10 feet taller.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm still 5'2". Um, but,
We just need a few more speaking events. I'm kidding.
right. Yeah. A
But
little
yeah,
stretch.
it's doing
But yeah,
something that was
it,
scary.
yes, it changes something that can't really be quantified either in words or in like, on paper
Yeah.
outcomes, but it
Yeah.
does filter in to
Yeah.
everything.
And it's not to say that those experiences don't come with their own challenges and hiccups and all the things. Like there's no straight line. It's not like a straight ascending line
No.
to publishing a book. Um, but I think that what you learn is at each phase is not only the agency that you have, but that there's so much value in who you are as a human being. and you get to advocate for that. I always tell people, when I do book proposals, that the book proposal is one of the biggest pieces of self advocacy they have in the process, because the best of themselves that they get on the page, the more the aligned partners come to the table to champion it. Right. So even at that very early part of a publishing process, it's crucial to be your full self, or else the right people can't see you. And so it's just, I get to teach people how to be more of themselves, basically.
And that just sounds like it's like the best thing in the world,
It's
right? I
literally the
think
best. I
we
love my
we
job. Yeah.
we all wanna just be able to exhale and be ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if there's, like, one story about a particular client's transformation that you'd wanna share without breaking any kind of
I'm happy
confidentiality?
to. Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about my client Dina, who I actually just talked about her on another call today, because she's such a perfect example of this. She was working for a government agency. She was a hired contractor to go into all these different countries and speak to women about what was holding them back from
Oh,
bettering their lives, and to bring that data back to the US government to
mm,
create programs. Um, and that's a very whittled down explanation of what she did. But
right.
she would travel all over the world, from Djibouti, where she lived for some time, to Singapore, and everywhere in between, talking to women in even the most tiny villages in Africa, all over the place.
Mm,
And she would come back so filled up with women's stories and heartbroken that across the world, the same story kept coming up. And that is that women never felt like enough.
oh,
And she said, when she came to me, she wanted to write a book about the epidemic of women's not enoughness. Um, and she decided to ultimately leave the government position, because she said, I kept bringing back this data and they didn't do anything with it.
yeah.
Nothing was being changed. So I realized if I wanted to be the change, I'd have to be the boots on the ground. And so she started her own business, and she does coaching on several different levels. She coaches women in a small group. She does consulting into huge corporations. She walks in and teaches women about leadership. And
Mhm.
she's taken all the best parts of the knowledge that she acquired over the years and created a business that works for her. Simultaneously, she went and scrapped the entire first book idea and
Wow.
decided, now I know where I'm going. If I really want to do what lights me up and to really be the change that does something about it, this is the book I need to write. And so it's in process. I can't say what, but
Yeah.
that experience of her saying, I'm going to take the next confident step,
Mm,
because I can't change the world in the container I'm in right now. I need to make it look differently, was such a powerful example. And she's killing it out there, and
mm.
the book will follow. So,
Wow. I think that story really just demonstrates how much more than a product a book is.
yeah,
It's this vehicle for transformation. And I think we sort of know that it's a vehicle of transformation for readers,
yeah,
but it is a vehicle of transformation for the writer, is what I'm getting from this story.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch for sure.
And now you're experiencing
I am
it.
my own worst student, Anna. Like I am, oh man, I'm pulling at all my own philosophies. It's just,
Yeah.
it's very different, as you know, um, going from book proposal to manuscript, right? Book proposals, my breath. Like, I love to do it. It took me 4 versions of my own proposal until I liked it. So just like my students, I wanted to keep tinkering and tinkering and tinkering. My agent's like, just go back and listen to your own podcast and take your own advice.
I'm curious about that, by the way. Who's holding you? Are you holding yourself? How does that process work for someone like
That's a
you?
great question. Because I always tell people, like, get support, get support, get
Yeah,
support.
yeah,
For the book proposal, I did it myself, and I was lucky enough to have been approached by Hachette to write this book.
yeah.
So I had a thought partner already in my publisher and my agent. And so, like, I did this in a very unorthodox way. Like, this isn't typically the way it happens. So I got a lot of their input as I was crafting it. And so that fourth iteration was when I really got to put myself into it. So the second I got my book deal, however, I called Hannah Robinson, who's a gem, and had worked as an acquiring editor at Hachette, another division, for many years. And she had gone out on her own freelance. And I said, I got a book deal. I need someone to hold my hand, right? I am not the expert in writing a manuscript. I'm an expert on everything before this and everything much further down the line. This middle part of actually writing the book is not my strong suit because I've spent years in PR, marketing, book proposals where everything is succinct, everything is a sound bite, and now I have to elaborate and I don't know how to do that. And she's like, I got you. And she is a godsend and honestly the only reason this book got written. So it's you can't do creative work in a silo. I'm a big
So
fan of
true.
getting support.
It's so true. And it's so like, thanks for sharing that. It's so humanizing. I often find myself, it sounds silly, I think, but I often find myself saying to coaching and therapy clients that I work with, like, I get support too, because when you're telling me the thing that's freaking you out, it doesn't freak me out because I'm not in the middle of what your nervous system is experiencing. So that makes it relatively
Easier.
easy for
Yeah.
me to stand on the side and stay grounded and, be in love and empathy and all of that. But in my own life, my nervous system's in the middle of the blender of my life. And so, like,
Yeah.
I can't be that rock for myself. It just doesn't work that way.
You can't. And you can only see what you see, right?
Yes.
You're too close to it. And I will say I tell my clients to talk to a few different people, right? Because this is an energetic process. It's an intimate process and you have to choose someone you feel safe with.
Yeah.
And so that for me was Hannah. And even when I send her the most garbage dumpster fire chapter, she'll be like, "This is a great foundation." And here, like, she knows I need to hear a compliment first before telling
Yeah.
me she's stripping it down. But you need someone to poke holes in it because it can't be the best it can be and serve the way we want it to if you don't have other professional eyeballs on it.
Absolutely. You need someone to reflect to you, to encourage you, like you're saying. And, I think this brings up something that's probably also important, that a lot of times, for cultural reasons, et cetera, we feel shame about needing support, about reaching out for support. Is that something that like comes up as a barrier when folks are like considering working with you?
On the book proposal, yes, people often feel I should be able to do this by myself. And then I go, can you tell me like your 5 favorite books? And they list them. And I'm like, great, all those people got help. Because the truth is like 95% of the books on shelves have received support. So people just aren't doing this alone. They're just not talking about it, which is a huge reason why I do, because I think we need transparency around it.
Yes.
Like an average of 8 people are going to touch this book to bring it to life, from designers to people doing layout to copy editor, all of it. It's not a solo job. And so to be expected to turn in this beautiful, sparkling manuscript on your own is a pipe dream. And if I put my industry hat on again, these publishers don't have the resources anymore to do a strong developmental edit because they don't have the editors for it. So they're expecting you to have worked with someone to develop this manuscript into a clean enough version that they can do something with it in the timeline they need to. So there is an expectation that you hire support. It's not a failure, there's no shame. But in the book proposal part of it, people don't, number one, realize that help is available.
Yeah.
They think they need to just download a template on the internet and go at it alone, and that's not a strategy, everybody. It's helpful, yes, but it's not a strategy for you. But yes, when they find the relief that comes in having a thought partner around it, it makes every step that comes after easier.
And I I know that it's not just relief, it's joy. Like
Yeah.
working with, your folks that are drawn to you love working with you. Like when you find that right thought partner to work with,
Yeah.
it's not just easier, it's like joyful to
It's fun.
collaborate in that way.
It's really fun. Yeah, we have a good time. And I think that you can mash together an idea on your own, but you won't have the market knowledge,
Right.
right? You won't have the intel about what publishers bought last week. You won't know what agents are looking for, right? So the publishing is a marriage between you and the industry. And
Yeah.
if you only have one part of it, it's not going to be a healthy relationship. So you have to have help, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I'm like on my soapbox about it because I think it's so important for people to know. I'm like, get help. It's expected you get help.
It's so funny that you said the word soapbox because that is literally the next question. We're
Oh my
we're
God.
at that we're at that time in this conversation where I'm going to bring us into the final three questions that I always ask
Yeah.
every guest. And the first of those is if there's a soapbox message,
Done and dusted. Get help. You're not supposed
synchronicity.
to do this alone.
Is that it?
That's it. Like
Everything
really.
done.
Well, okay, I'll give you a second one so that it's not stale. Here's the thing. You have to surrender to the timeline. Creating a book is a creative process where there's a ton of discovery,
Yeah.
not only about the work that you're doing, but about yourself. And if you want to jam yourself through it for some deadline you've come up with yourself, it's not going to be as great as it can be. So
Yeah.
let it take the amount of time it takes. Surrender, 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 and get rid of the timeline.
What I love so much about this soapbox, you have to surrender to the timeline, is that it's really true no matter what we're talking about. If
Yeah,
we're talking about a book, if we're talking about a relationship, a business, a healing journey,
yeah.
it holds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really I actually just finished writing about this in my own manuscript. So the idea I was proposing was if you try and get to the end as fast as you can, it's like saying you're the expert when you're still the student. Because even when you think you know everything, there's discovery that happens in the development of an idea that puts you right back into being a student again. So you can't push yourself through it for some arbitrary deadline. It cuts it off when it's still immature.
I love that. It's kind of like I mean, we all do this, right? We all have that impatience, but it's kind of
100%.
like almost like a lack of respect and awe for the process.
Yeah. It's like, sure, Rochelle, like print it on a tote bag and get out of here. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of truth to it. And it's one of the things that my clients will repeat back to me all the time is surrender the timeline, surrender, 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 because you just have to let the magic of something developing take place.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't have milestones. Doesn't mean we're
Yes.
completely taking our foot off the gas, but we're not gonna say, "I want this done on such and such day during the summer solstice," we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So,
It's an organic process. I love that yeah, I love everything about that. For the listener who is starting to percolate as they are hearing you speak, they're listening to this conversation, they've had that little like feeling like someday I want to write a book and it's really getting stirred up by what you're sharing. But that's also bringing on many feelings of fear and overwhelm and where do I even start? What word of encouragement do you have to that listener?
that there's somebody out there that needs to hear exactly what you have to say, and if we spend less time focusing on speaking to the masses and more time speaking to the one person who needs it, we will reach the masses. And so it makes the process a little bit more intimate to just think about that one person who needs you and needs your wisdom. Um, and tactically speaking, are you going to ask me a tactical question? Because I'll save it. Say
No,
tactically speaking. Okay,
no,
great.
there's only one more question and it's
I
how
don't
can
want to
people
steal the
find you?
soapbox moment. Okay. So, tactically speaking, one of the cool ways to give yourself a little reassurance in the early days is by doing that market research, right? And not from the sense of, oh, there's already so many books out there that are already written on my topic, but to look at them and say, oh, I like what they did there, but here's what I would do that's a little bit different. Or, oh, here's the lens I'm writing it from. Or here's the language I would use. Use it to fire you up as opposed to like burning you down, right?
Yeah.
So find some encouragement in the fact that you absolutely have something to say that hasn't been said your way before.
Yes. Through the contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, final question is, how can people find you? How can they follow your work, follow along so that they can find out about your book when it comes out? How can they work with you and in what ways?
Thank you. So we'll start with all like the free and easy places. My podcast is called Bound and Determined. There's over 140 episodes there from um, my own wisdom, the wisdom of other industry experts, authors, agents, editors, um, business developers, all of the things. If you go to RichelleFredson.com, there's some free resources for you there. You can also get to the podcast there. And this year we've categorized them. So if you want to just see episodes that involve literary agents, you would check that, and all of those episodes will come up. So if you're in the middle of your manuscript, or if you're in the middle of pitching or building your platform, there's episodes to speak to all of that. Each month, I host a free gathering called the Aspiring Authors Assembly, and it's just an open community Q&A to come together and talk about our wins, what we're struggling with. I answer questions with the industry expertise, help guide people. So that's once a month. You can also see that on my website. I'm Richelle Fredson everywhere. Instagram, where else? TikTok, though I'm not really doing much there. LinkedIn. And I have 2 programs for people who are in that book ideation phase. One's called Book Proposal Blueprint. It's a digital/group program. So you get to learn digitally and then come to group sessions. And then I also coach privately. So that's everything that's going on right now. Do the Thing will be out in 2027. So too soon to give you a link there, but
This will probably come out in March, so it'll be a bit
it'll be
closer. Yep,
closer.
it'll be
Yes.
closer.
Yeah. So
Yep.
those are all the things going on that I can think about.
Amazing. I plan to come to an Aspiring Authors Assembly
Oh,
session, and I invite listeners to come with me. We can hang out there together.
it's so juicy.
Yeah.
It's become such a community because people come time and time again. And so they give an update, or, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I got this response from an agent. What does it mean? Or I'm stuck on this chapter. How do I think about it? It's really just such beautiful and intimate support. And I absolutely love to do it. There's one tomorrow, but
Oh,
not in March, but
cool.
as we're recording this, there's one
Yes.
tomorrow.
And it happens every month. So
Yeah.
when you're listening to this, there will be one coming up.
Yeah. RichelleFredson.com/assembly is where you can sign up.
Fantastic. Richelle, thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
a total pleasure getting to meet you and chat with you, and I look forward to future conversations.
Oh, me too. Thanks so much for having me.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor. Hit that follow button so you don't miss a thing, and leave a rating or review. It helps more people find this show, and honestly, it makes my day. And if you're looking for more ways to trust yourself and start listening to that gut instinct of yours, come hang out with me on Instagram at Anna_Holtzman. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, trust yourself. You've got this.